Hey everyone, Anthony here, and welcome back to another video. I wanted to talk about this recent announcement that the G7X Mkiii has been discontinued. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be upset about this because the G7X Mkiii and just really all the G7X cameras have just been all the rage because something happened on TikTok, I'm not really sure, and it just blew up, and now everybody is trying to get their hands on a G7X Mkiii if you're shooting TikTok videos, and it's a great camera to do that, but Canon silently released this camera that I'm currently shooting on, and it's been out for a while. It's an update to the G7X line, and I don't think people are talking about it, so that's why I wanted to get out and actually walk around and use this camera and talk about some of those key updates that make this camera, the Canon V1, a much better camera than the G7X cameras. And you can't even get your hands on the G7X Mkiii. The G7X Mkiii has now been discontinued. The G7X Mkiii may as well be discontinued as well because nobody has it. So the V1 is the camera to get for a couple reasons, and I'll go over that right now. But the V1 is actually available. That's the key thing there. So let's chat about it. So these first two features that I'm going to talk about were available on the G7X, and that is, of course, autofocus. Canon's been known for their fantastic autofocus for quite some time. That was available on the G7X, but the V1 has an updated autofocus system. We have eye detection. I can actually see that it's working right now, and I am shooting at f2.8, so you should see it lock onto my eye there, and it's tracking me very, very well. No problems on these new Canon cameras in terms of the autofocus. And then, of course, the big one on this camera is the microphone. The microphone is built into the camera. I don't have any extra accessories on it right now. I've got the windscreen. It's a little windy out today, but I think it's doing a pretty decent job. I've already done some audio tests with this camera, and it seems pretty decent. So that is two upgrades that the V1 has, but there's three things that the V1 has that the G7X cameras did not have, and that is, one, a super wide angle lens. You could actually notice it right now. And two, a variable ND filter built into this camera, and the introduction of a log picture profile. So let's talk about those three things and why they're so crucial. Starting with this lens. Notice how wide this lens is. I've got a little digital stabilization on right now, and it's a lot wider on this camera, and that's because of this 16mm lens that's on the front here. Now in video, it does crop in just a millimeter, so we're at 17mm, and then if you apply that digital stabilization, then you're cropping into the sensor ever so slightly once again. But with this digital stabilization on right now, it's pretty wide, and that's a big thing with these compact cameras. They've never really been this wide, and that is what makes the V1 such an amazing, more powerful tool for vloggers. You could just get more in the frame. And this isn't even as wide as we can go. I'm gonna turn digital stabilization off right now, and I'll show you the difference. So here's what it looks like with no stabilization on. Now, I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious, but just notice how wide this field of view is, and I'm going to compare that to the shot you're going to see from DP Review using the G7X Mkiii. And this is just such a wider camera. It's so much more usable for a vlogger because the G7X cameras were typically that 24mm, whereas this, with no stabilization on, is 17mm. And you're really noticing the difference when I flip back and forth between this video and the DP Review video that I've seen online using that G7X Mkiii. So it also is really helpful to have that wide angle lens, so that way I could just be closer to the camera itself. And that microphone is going to appear a little bit more clear as well. So this is a big thing with the built-in microphone. You want to remain somewhat close to the camera, right? So having that wide angle lens allows you to stay nice and close. And that mic probably sounds pretty decent right now too. So I've turned the standard stabilization, the digital stabilization back on so you can kind of see the difference there. But the other thing that this V1 has is a built-in variable ND filter. This is so key because one of the things that is the problem with some of these point and shoot cameras is they don't have a filter thread on the lens itself. So this can be a problem when you're shooting outside and you're not trying to crank the shutter speed. So I'll tell you my settings on this camera right now. I'm trying to use f2.8 and it is a bright sunny day. As you can see, I've got my ISO at ISO 100 and I've cranked my shutter speed up just a little bit. I'm at 1/160th of a second. Now I'm going to turn the variable ND filter off and show you the difference this variable ND filter is actually making. Let's take a look. So this is the difference between the variable ND filter on and the variable ND filter off. I'm obviously way overexposed now, so I'm going to make an adjustment on my camera, but I'm going to have to make it a pretty dramatic adjustment. I think I'm going down to maybe like 1/1000th of a second, something like that. Maybe maybe I'm a little too far here. Yeah, I think 1/1000th of a second makes a lot of sense. So this is the dramatic difference that that variable ND filter makes, even though it's not like a huge ND, like there's not like 11 stops or 12 stops of ND on this camera. It still makes a significant difference. I'm gonna keep my camera settings the same right now, and I'm gonna turn the variable ND filter on, and you can see, check this out. There we go, the variable ND filter is back on, and obviously way too dark here in terms of the exposure. So I'm gonna change my core camera settings back to 1/160th of a second, and that looks about right there. So that is the variable ND filter, and the big benefits allows you to keep that shutter speed nice and low and not have those like super weird jittery kind of movements. This is fairly smooth. 1/160th of a second is not ideal, but it's definitely better than like 1/1000th of a second, that's for sure. So one of the things that I absolutely love about the Canon V1, and one of the reasons why I think you should get this camera over any of the G7X cameras, is because of this log picture profile. Now, this gives you some added flexibility in post-production and such. I really like having the log picture profile. Generally, the variable ND and a log picture profile are prosumer type of specs, and we're getting this in an entry-level kind of camera that is the Canon V1. So having that log picture profile allows me to add my own kind of color grade in post, rather than relying on the standard picture profile, which actually kind of crushes the image down. And if you notice here, like obviously if I point my camera in the direction of the sun, you're gonna see that clipping happening there. But that log picture profile adds just an extra little bit of color range and almost adds to that dynamic range of the camera. And if you're using an entry-level camera, having that log picture profile is really, really helpful. So as a pro user, if I wanted to get this little point and shoot camera as like a small little pocketable vlog camera, great for photos, great for video kind of thing, then having that log picture profile makes a big difference. And that's something that I really like to have. So that's just a couple of reasons why this Canon V1 is such a better camera than the G7X. That autofocus and the built-in microphone upgrades are definitely key, but it's that introduction of these pro features like the log mode, the variable ND, this significantly wider angle field of view. That is so key. I absolutely love having the wide angle field of view, because on previous point and shoot cameras, they'd enter into some sort of crop mode, and you do get that on this Canon V1 if you use like extreme digital stabilization, but on the basic stabilization it's not too bad. So it's a couple of reasons why to get the Canon V1 over that G7X. And honestly, I don't even know when the G7X cameras are going to be restocked, so I think the Canon V1 is the way to go because of these key upgrades, and it's actually like in stores. So that's all for me. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this type of video, we could do some of these more like walking and talking type of videos. Just let me know in the comments down below. My name's Anthony, and I'll see you in the next one.